Good afternoon. I think Dmitry Polyansky just spoke to you for longer than he spoke to us in the Council, which rather suggests who the audience is. But we said again, for the third time, that there's no substance to these allegations, that they are unverified. Russia has a history of using chemical weapons, including in the UK against the Skripals. And what we really need to talk about, if Russia was serious, is ending the invasion, ending the killing, ending the humanitarian suffering, and we'll come back to that in the Council tomorrow. But you've all seen the tragic shots from Mariupol, from other cities. As the Secretary-General said this morning, this is horror on an unbelievable scale, and that's what we need to talk about. We'll do that in the Council tomorrow, and we'll come back to it in the GA. Sorry.
Could you talk about the three humanitarian resolutions that are now on the table? There's going to be apparently a vote tomorrow in the Council, and then, of course, there are these two competing drafts in the General Assembly, one now introduced by South Africa. Can you talk about the South African draft and what you make of that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that question, because I realise that it is causing some confusion. I think what it tells us is that the focus is rightly on the humanitarian catastrophe. The people who are dying in Ukraine, the refugees, 3.5 million now in Europe. And we've got three, at the moment, resolutions on the table. One in the Security Council, which, as you heard from the Russians, they plan to vote on tomorrow. And then we've got, at the moment, two drafts under discussion for the General Assembly. One is one that was put together by the Mexicans. We are very supportive of that draft. It has a clear humanitarian focus, but also, I think, very clearly makes clear what the cause of this is. Russian invasion of Ukraine. You could stop the humanitarian catastrophe right now if the Russians declared a ceasefire and withdrew. The South Africans have tabled a text which does call for a ceasefire, but at the moment doesn't attribute any responsibility for the causes of the humanitarian crisis. Now, I know that OCHA and humanitarian organisations around the world are doing all they can to resolve it, but there's no point the UN perpetrating this without being clear, I think, about the cause of the humanitarian crisis. So we're all discussing now with the South Africans, how we can come to a text that would command widespread support across the General Assembly without having to have two votes on texts essentially which want the same thing.
Ambassador Dmitry Polyansky just right now made a remark specifically about the threat of chemical weapon in Ukraine. What do you think about the timing of this statement, and do you think, based on your country's intelligence, that a chemical attack in Ukraine now is imminent?
Yeah, what we've been worrying about all along is that this is another Russian false flag. Remember, they said they weren't going to invade, and they invaded. They said they hadn't invaded. They said they weren't going to hit civilian targets, and they hit the hospital and theatre in Mariupol. They said that chemical weapons, nothing to do with them, everyone else's problem. So it's hard not to conclude, given their record in the UK, in Russia against Alexei Navalny, given what we've seen in Syria, that this might well be a prelude to the Russians themselves creating some sort of false flag chemical weapons attack. But we've been very clear that there are procedures for dealing with this, and that Russia will face the full consequences if chemical weapons are used.